Yay, there it is.
All right. We are live with another episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 8. This was made for me. So I am Ronnie Gunter, Crimson Owl Comics. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, of course, because you're here on my channel. And my co-host, Fogbreaker Studios, Jason Alexander. You can find him on Instagram. The links are in the description.
Man,
so
what do we got?
You want to give your first off,
I'll read it. Oh, you're gonna read it? Okay, go for it.
Okay, or you want to read it?
I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, okay. I can lay it out. But if you want to read it, go for it.
All right, this is the description of the book: The Enigma of Amigara Fault. Following an earthquake in an unnamed preculture of Japan, a fault is discovered on Amigara Mountain, very close to the center of the quake. On the slopes of the mountain, two hikers meet: a man named Owaki and a woman named Yoshida. The former assumes that they are both here to see the fault, which has captured the attention of the mountain global press. Following the sound of voices to the fault, the two of them arrive at the strange sight before them. Countless human shaped holes in the rock face exposed by the earthquake. And what's even worse is that some of them even have the shape of them.
Yeah, you heard him right. You heard what he said. Wile E. Coyote, y'all. Every person in this prefecture is there. What's up, Frank? They're basically their silhouette.
What's up, Lynn? Thank you for showing.
Oh, what's up, Lynn? Their shape is like buried in this fault that wasn't put there by a man, and it's been there. I mean, as long as this mountain has been there, apparently. So it's like you have an earthquake, and that's bad enough, and then you start to see these holes in the fault line that's raised, and that's really bad. Yeah. And then you start to realize that these holes are people shaped,
like even the shape of their hair.
Welcome back, Junji Ito. This is we're back where we were last week. What a crazy premise! What a crazy premise for a story.
Mm-hmm. Because there's so many ancient areas around the world where people wonder how things were made.
Sure.
And this is a great concept of taking that idea and making to something scary and horrifying.
Yeah. What's the most twisted mystery that you can have is, okay, we don't know how Stonehenge got here, but what's crazy is your name is carved on the side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this goes up to that next level. Look at that again.
Right there.
Junji Ito is amazing with black and white.
Imagine going to the mountain and you see ancient human holes, and this mountain has to be solid thick with hundreds of thousands of rock. It had to take a long time to carve this.
Yeah, this picture right here immediately made me think of, I don't know if you're familiar with, in Peru, the Nazca lines, where they have all these big, huge animals or people, or some of them look like aliens that are put in the mountainscape, but they're drawn, and you can only see them from so many feet above them. And so it's these are not even etchings, these are holes. And these holes, they've measured them to 30 meters, and they still haven't found the other side. This is just as much a part of the mountain as the mountain is. It just happens that all these people's body shapes are cut into this mountain somehow.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
If you had a mohawk, or you had hair that was the 80s, horn hairs, it was shaped like you.
Yeah, it's this hole is made for a person to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But one of these holes that's shaped like a person is shaped just like you. And once you find it, it almost calls to you. Like there's almost an obsession of you having to go through this hole that looks like you. And so the story is following this. They're not really a couple. They just happen to run into each other from what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, and build a relationship.
And they built a relationship because he was curious, but she was called there, you know, and it was like she showed up to find her hole, and she knew that she had to go through it, and he was trying to calm her down when another guy says, nope, she's right. Look, this hole is shaped just like me. And he takes off all his clothes except for his underwear.
And he starts going in.
Swoop, like it was like a perfect fit. Yo, I love it. I love it.
I was like, let me find a sound effect.
Right. But, you know, it's like, again, Ito has like the perfect sound effect to where you knew that, oh, this fit him perfectly. Like, like that did fit him perfectly. And of course, when she sees that, she now knows not only does she have to find her hole, but whether she wants to or not, she has to go in it. And this story is like just the way that, because the art's very different than Uzumaki, but this story is, it's basically a it speaks so much to anxiety, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say is like,
well, first off, if you're going to go in a hole that's shaped like you, why would you like take everything off except for your underwear? Because I have been in caves, and the last thing I want is to have some bug be calling up my pants or my underwear, because that's all that's there.
he had to know that like it was like his fit, not his clothes, like but he knew like maybe he would get snagged if he had his clothes on, because he knew this was for him, and so he had to embrace it. You know, and it's like when I hate that I can't remember the male lead character's name, but he dreams about this.
Owaki.
And Owaki, yes. And when he dreams about it, he feels the anxiety of walking into this hole and not being able to walk out, and not being able to move like one way or the other way, and not even being able to turn your head. And it's captured, like, because like I don't like being confined to where I can't move. So I gotta find the picture now. Like just the looks, again, I think Ito has some of the Ito has some of the best facial expressions that I think that I've seen of like across the board. Like, because you can make these faces, but you can't feel these faces. You can feel.
I got it.
You can feel his faces, and so it's just like it's not like Uzumaki, but it's super high tension through the whole book, and a lot of it is just
knowing.
At that. Yeah, look at that. Like you can't move forever. There's no opening. Like it's just shaped like you through like hundreds of meters. It's just shaped like you, and it's just for you to walk through. To where?
And
who knows?
And Owaki is actually having a nightmare of the guy who went in the cave with his underwear, and here you see him freaking out because he's basically like, "Oh crap.
There's no escape.
This hole that was designed for me, the earthquake literally probably deformed it, and now it's not my shape anymore, and it's snugging and tightening up on me." Like that's a horrifying face.
Yeah, think about that. That's right up there with being like burned alive, or the worst ways to go. Like you're being buried up to your head and like watching the tide come in, like
Like from an artist perspective, I like these 3 panels. These 3 panels are really great. And just like you said, he just captures their expression so great. And shout out to Clay, Van Illustrations. He sent me and Jason a video of Junji Ito literally talking about his artwork and showing like the pencils to the ink work. And it's just amazing to see him draw, but just getting to learn about his mind and how he grew up as a kid wanting to do this stuff. Just it's amazing. Next time I'll have to like send the video out to anyone that wants to watch it. It's just a really great video to watch.
Yeah, it is really cool. Maybe we should just like put a link in the comments, like, because like these 2 stories, I'm glad that we did these 2. Like, even if we take a while before we revisit Ito, I think that these 2 stories are like, this is the entry level. Like it is for me. I remember being introduced to this book about a year or so ago, and when this guy, one of my coworkers, was telling me about it, he's like, "You can read it," because he knew how I read, and he knew that I did comics, and he's like, "You could read it on your lunch break." He's like, "You can be able to finish it on your lunch break." So it's like, yes, if you think that you don't know, like, because Ito is new to you, you don't want to commit to 20 chapters of Uzumaki, start with this. Like, we haven't even gotten to the end of it, but because it is such a, this story is told, like, it's compact. It begins and it ends. So like, I don't want to, like, I'd like to like let these first panels breathe a little bit, because it still builds tension so good. It builds tension better than most comics that you'll read. I don't even know what year this book was. I don't know if this was before Uzumaki or after.
Yeah.
But this is, like, again, it's not the same like format as Uzumaki, but this is, for a suspense book, this hits all the marks. Like, this could be a murder mystery and build tension like through the same methods that this book does, and it would still tell the story the best way possible. It's another good one. It's a sleeper, like, it'll creep up on you, but it's really good.
This came out, the original run was from 2001 to 2002.
Okay, so it was after Uzumaki.
Yeah, it was after, and actually Gyo, GYO, that's one of his other major books that we're going to cover. But from what I read is that at the end of Gyo, this was a short story that was within the comic. So he pretty much had this big, long comic, and then he's like, hey, I'm just going to throw a short little story in with it. And, it's just, for a short story, it has the chill factor.
Yeah, his bonus might be better than my masterpiece. Like, is so good. Like, man, I love comics. I love what this guy does. Like, it just makes me love comic books that much more, because like, he cut his own path. And not to say that there's not other horror comics, but like, I just feel like that these are more literature even than, because the story crafting is just done so good. It's just so good.
Lynn, there's a link in the description where you could read the book online, but you could also probably find it online as well if you want to buy the physical copy.
Yeah, you can buy any Ito book on Amazon. I just saw another one today. I ran in a bookstore on my way home, and I saw another one today, and I want to get it. It was called Something Human, but it was as thick as Uzumaki was, because that's a big book. Like, to see it physically, it's a big book.
So, I could imagine.
Yeah. And but no, I would give anything a flyer that we saw of Junji Ito's, because his books are that good. His books are solid, so I would definitely recommend it. You can find like this online easily. I think Ronnie put, like you said, put a link in for
Well,
it.
that's the link to the video to watch him draw and pretty much talk about his comics.
Sure.
And I'm gonna send and in the description there's a link to the book.
Word up.
And just if anyone didn't see it, here is a link to the book online where you can read it.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's one of those things like, wow, just like you said, just for a book that doesn't have like that Uzumaki like supernatural feel,
right?
It started off as like more of like a mystery why these holes are there, and then the guy having the dream and the girl like literally freaking out saying, I can't sleep, I hear this thing calling to me all the time, where she starts having a panic attack and like literally having anxiety because she doesn't want to go in the hole, because she's afraid of going in there, because she's afraid of Mike getting stuck. But at the same time, she can't resist the urge.
She has to. She knows she has to go in there, even if it kills her.
Yeah.
Once she finds her hole, she has to go in it. And so,
and not just that, you're finding multiple people who are trying to be called to it.
Yeah. It's like it's filling up. Like at the beginning, it's like you just see this big mountainscape, and then you see a few researchers, and you see a few hikers. But like as the story goes on, like there are like crowds and crowds of people, and a lot of them are looking for their holes. I do believe that if this happened, I do believe that there would be the same thing in real life. And that's part of what grabs you about this story is like, if anybody can relate to anxiety, like this is it. Like this is a panic attack. Like this story, it just is like this unreal eventuality of having to go through something that shouldn't exist, and in with anxiety a lot of times it doesn't really exist, but you work yourself up to this face in the second panel. You do.
I mean, like, that just her face right there is like, wow. Like we can't just say it enough. He does so good with facial expressions, but he literally looks in a mirror.
Right.
Like,
but
it's just not so great.
This is not 22 layers of color and and values. This is like black and white. And it's I could figure a lot of this story out with no dialogue. But the writing is so good. You can't really wrap your brain around like this level of combination in writing and artwork coming from one person. Like, yes, there are people who do it, and maybe I'm biased. I don't know why I would be. This is nuts, man. Like, it's so I can't imagine not liking a Junji Ito story.
We appreciate it, Patrick.
What's going on, man?
Thank you.
Just don't start talking 80s music.
Yeah. But just I had to like pick that title because like she says here, it's been waiting for me to enter. All that time when it was underground, it was made for me to enter. And you know, but at the same time, in the panel before, I'll be trapped in this hole. And when I go in, you know, that leads into. So she's literally freaking out and having a panic attack because she's one part of her wants to go while the other part doesn't.
Right. It's like Ito, he just does so good at this behind the scenes, unseen, like humans are just moths and there's a giant bug zapper You
Right.
don't know what it's gonna look like, but it's gonna call you.
Yeah.
And when it does, you won't be able to resist it.
Hmm.
And resisting it is how you lose, and giving into it is how you win.
Hmm.
It's like, even though you know it's the worst ending possible, like, he brings you all the way there, and you
Yeah.
say, damn, maybe I should have maybe I should have just gave up from the beginning. 20 chapters of Uzumaki was like that. And it's like, now you got
Hmm.
people climbing past the military police trying to get into their holes.
Yeah.
Like,
Man, it's just, and just with the book alone, the short story, from an artistic perspective, just trying to go more into it, just the line formation, just the line work is amazing. How he gives such good texture with the mountains and stuff like that. It's anyone who, even if you're not making a horror comic, this is just a great thing to look at in general if you want to increase your inking skills,
yep.
because he makes horrifying faces. He makes terrified faces just with black ink, and he shows that you don't need to have all this color to make a page dramatic. You
Yeah.
just don't have to.
Look at this page. Like, this is probably my favorite page because, I
What's
mean,
up, bro?
check out. Hey, what's going on? So it's like, you got this guy who has to go in, but even before he goes in, he's saying, tell my mom goodbye, but he can't
Yeah.
not go in. And they
Hmm.
know that with him, climbing up this hole, taking his clothes off, and everybody sees it. Like, the security, I don't know if they're military police, but they're saying, if people see him go into this hole and not come out, other people are going to follow him, and they're
Yeah.
trying to get to him. But
And you see in that panel, like the top, like the mid one on the right, you see him fit perfectly through that.
yep.
And it's like, people, when more people are fitting through these holes, the other people that are being called to them, the hole being called to, it's like, okay, this person was able to fit through, this person was able to fit through.
It's my
I'm
turn
just,
now.
it's
Yeah.
my turn, and I'm just curious on what's the other side, because
Yep.
so many people are going through so much problems in their life, and if they have some mysterious thing that just calls to them, they're going to go towards it, because they're like, my life sucks, I want change, and I don't know what's on the other side, but it has to be better. And that's what these people are probably
Yeah.
thinking at this point.
Right. But you got this girl in hysterics
Hmm.
over this hole,
Yeah.
over not wanting to go in it, but she knows she has to. And again, I'm sorry, y'all. Like, y'all can get tired of hearing me talk about Junji Ito's faces, but until y'all can start sending them into my inbox and showing me that you can do them better,
Hmm.
I'm going to keep talking about them. Because look,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. And so he figures the only way to save her from herself is to fill up her silhouette with these rocks,
Yeah.
and it calms her down. They go back in their tent. She's so lonely, but she's afraid to be alone. But
Hmm.
it's almost like she feels sad for her silhouette being lonely. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
they have to complete each other. And so she stays in the tent, and he has another dream. And again, the holes are in this dream. And it's almost like it almost felt like this might have been the actual origin
Yeah.
of the holes, because he's obviously back, way way back in like a different time period where they are wearing like loin coverings, and it's the holes are there as a death sentence for people who had committed crimes. And he says that he knew he committed a crime, and he goes into this hole, and it starts to, as he walks through it, it starts to stretch his body around to the point where he should die.
It looks like almost like cavemen in a point, but yet
Right.
they have like great dialogue. Like,
Yeah.
so
It's
it
like
had.
It's like Star Trek caveman.
Mhm. But do you want to show that picture of the?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
You know
this
it.
here is just really like amazing because you see him going in, he's like all fine, and then going on to the next panels, his neck starts stretching longer, and then his
Look at
body
that.
starts basically curving and stretching to a point where it's literally deforming his body.
Linguini.
Yeah, like a low main.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it stretches him past the point that he should be alive, but he is alive.
Yeah.
And he wakes up from his nightmare, and she left, and she moved all the rocks, and she climbed in her silhouette, and he can't figure out why she would do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so scary, like that he tried to keep her alive and he tried to ignore it.
And in the end, he failed, and he's like, the only thing I could do is find a hole that's like me and go and do it myself.
And it's almost like this fault line like made him drop his flashlight.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all just drawn. There's no dialogue on this page. He drops his flashlight and it just shines perfectly on his hole with his JTT hair wings.
Right?
That's at the end. Like there was no, that was like his that concreted to him that it was. He's like, oh, it's got my hair. Like time to go spelunking.
Yeah, Junji Ito does some great artwork.
Yeah,
he really
man.
does.
You know.
But you know, it's like at that point that with this horror comic, it's one of those things that these two people met probably by fate or whatever, and he literally took the mission to the objective to literally protect this woman. And that's where the psychological horror comes from.
Sure.
Is that you do all you can to protect this person, to pretty much not go insane and risk their life. And at the end, she does. And he has that, regret feeling that I failed. And that's when he let his guard down. And that's when he found the hole that was calling to him. And he probably felt that was his punishment, that he wasn't strong enough to protect her from going in that hole and doing whatever he could to stop her, even if it meant to like put her somewhere to protect her.
You got it. I think you nailed it. Like I think that's it. Like that is just such a craftsman. Like this guy, I would just sit and listen to him tell stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is how his mind works. Like he's so good. So I guess you would call it like the epilogue of the story.
I know you are, Rick. We grew up together. I know. Yeah.
You know, it's like this guy is, as after the Gaio, I think his name is, walks through the hole. They say several months later, you have a different group of look like military men or explorers. They find these other deformed shapes on the other side of the hole.
Yeah, indicating that this is probably the other side of the mountain and
the fault, exactly.
Yeah, the fault, and these people who went through here thinking that they're going to get out safe and alive are going to be stuck, because now instead of hosts shaped like people, you have hosts shaped like veins, or almost snake like.
Yeah, but that's how you like
Come out.
they don't die.
Like literally, that person is so deformed where his mouth and jaw is like probably almost half a yard wide.
Yeah, look at
And
his eyes. His eyes can't even be beside each other.
yeah, and that's just a great horrific image. Is like, because at the point the guy's like shining a flashlight in that cave, and he says, I see something walking towards me. And that was probably the guy in the beginning who literally took his clothes off and was only in his underwear.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to his underwear. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like that, but
It's just one of those things, is like,
I think it's a question worth asking.
yeah, it's like one of those things that these people are crawling through these, and they shouldn't be alive at this point. That is stretching their body to literally make them look like a Picasso painting.
Right. And not to mention the fact that there's no food in the hole, there's no water in the hole. We know from the story that this is several months later.
Yeah, like probably thousands of inch rock, hard rock.
Yeah,
So
like
it probably takes like, I don't know how long. Several months.
yeah, living to walk through a mountain deformed like this. Like what will happen when you get out? Are you a monster? Does your body go back to normal? Like, do you just turn into pudding? Like, what happens?
Yeah, and it really makes you think at these people that literally crawl through this back in the origin times, that when they reach the end, did they really go back to normal? Or, is this like, okay, you did this crime, and for your crime, you're basically going to become newborn as something else. You're
Right.
going to basically look as horrifying as the crime is that you did.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, nobody's ever going to let you live. Like, we're not going to kill you directly, but yeah.
We're just going to put you through a psychological like punishment. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what it is.
Psychological pasta maker.
Yeah.
That's it. But no, such a good story, like super short, which was nice to know that we were going to just consume this whole story.
Yeah.
And get it done. But it's not Uzumaki, but I don't think that anything is. I don't think that anything will be. But in its own right, this book is awesome. I love the story. I love the artwork. I don't like the artwork as much as I did Uzumaki, but it's consciously drawn different because it's a different story.
But just alone, like he does, like most artists will try to make just less scenery and less landscape, but this man has no problem drawing landscape. And even in Uzumaki, if he has a mountain scene or a house scene, he literally takes the time to draw out that whole landscape. And I appreciate him for doing that, because it just shows his artistic skills, and just shows that, hey, I want to like pan everything out where it looks like it's almost like a drawing panels for a movie. Right. Because how well he tells the story. That, as an artist, as a comic book artist, you want to make the story flow where you have different panels from different angles, and he just isn't afraid to approach that. And yeah, just great for you.
Yeah, he's super talented, like at being able to create 3 dimensions in black and white. Like it really is. And just with like hatching lines, like look at this page. Like, now look at that line work. Like, there's no question that that's a vertical mountain.
Yeah.
and that he's walking into it. And that's so hard to pull off. Like, how many lines do you think is on this page? Like, look at this.
Yeah, look at that. Look at the shape of the tunnel, like him, like how you literally see his hole, and you see like the like the texture of the mountain, and you just see the 3-dimensional layers of the hole getting deeper and deeper.
Right.
You know,
So,
just
I want to just say one more thing about this page here, real quick. Like this right here. I don't know if y'all can see my finger. I don't know where my on this side. Look right here. Like this is like so subtly the way he's got this white outline around his head pulls your eye directly to the silhouette so that you know, yes, he found his hole without question. Because you wouldn't necessarily look at that and think like this was his head shape, but then just the way he did the white around this guy's head from the flashlight.
He wanted to show, hey, he has the shape of that hair, just like his silhouette.
Exactly. This is not Little Debbie. This is your hole. You know,
right.
Like
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I get gushy over his artwork, and I try to slow my mouth down, but like I dig mood setting. Like I think that if you can set a mood, you can tell any story, and you can keep my attention. Because it's wow, like it's like there are just certain things that you see like as a kid watching basketball, like watching the NBA on NBC, and then going outside and playing basketball and playing just a little bit harder than you would have because you just saw like Michael Jordan versus Larry Bird. Like it's just like it's the same thing. Like,
and that image of the guy crawling and his neck and his body like twitching more. I'm just gonna read some of the dialogue from the comic. I was sliding slowly down, moving forward. With each movement I made, the walls were carved in a way that kept you from retreating. I had no choice but to move forward into the catacombs all around. I felt the cold stone on all sides around me, stretching it until it should have torn off. To my horror, the part corresponding to my neck only got larger and larger. Ugh! It felt like a tug on my neck, and with time, anyone help me. The hole stretched out to several directions at once, not just my neck, my arms, leg, and torso.
Hello. That, man, like just the if you can make visuals like this and describe it like this, man, that's Compton and Long Beach together. Now you know we in trouble. Like he's so good. He's so good. Like you could intro this book with this page, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, I gotta read this."
Yeah,
you don't need to know nothing else. You know, it's like I have one of my stories before I even read this. Like Ransom Notes does start out with a dream, and it starts out with a dream that does have. It's totally different than this, but it does have that like pull you in gruesome feature without being overboard. But it's like this is what I was trying to go for. Like it's just very encouraging. Like when you say I want to do comic books, but I don't have a superhero story. It's like, nope, don't worry, because greatness exists in comic books in every single variety. Like you can find your lane, and there's enough for you to make it your own, but there's also enough that you can like have like you can set benchmarks for yourself.
Yeah. You know? And I had to pull this up because just look at the line work here. like especially here centered, indicating that this is a flashlight and the beams are stretching out, and just the detail on the rock alone, it's
It,
it's
it's
he
so
knows what he's
cool.
he knows what he's doing.
Right, because it's like you said, like looking at this, you see where that flashlight is.
Yeah, where it's shining off to, and yeah,
But you can almost see like the darkness like creeping in. I don't know why I said creeping like that, but you can almost see it like dripping in on the back, like this is as far as this light reaches.
yeah.
And you never see that from this angle. Like people do that from behind, but to do that from in front of a light source, man, like with black and white, like it really looks like he just drew this with a really, really nice ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. I can't do that. Like that's it, man. Like this is a benchmark for horror comics.
Yeah.
But for comics in general, like if you can tell a story this good about anything, you can tell a story. Like you're there. So,
and like I said, this is a shorter story, so it's one of those things that sorry if we repeated ourselves at times, but it was just such a great short story that it made such an impact for any comic book reader. Like there's short stories out there that's like, okay, you know, I really didn't get anything out of this. If you're a horror comic fan or just a comic fan in general, you're just going to enjoy the short story because he takes the time, just like with Uzumaki, setting these two people up, thinking it's going to be like a love romance story, and then slowly building like tiers of a pyramid of building the climax on how terrifying and how horrifying this is going to become.
And inevitable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the end of this was told from the beginning and there was no fighting it.
And
it's okay. Like it's totally okay because it's a good read. I feel like similarities between this story and like that short story at the end of Uzumaki.
Yeah.
That was like kind of like the big, like how Uzumaki could have started, like if it was a space story. Like had I read that first, I would have felt like that was like A1 stellar phenomenal.
Yeah.
But following what that story matured into, it was a good side story. Like, but I don't know. I guess we could just do ratings if you want. Like,
yeah, we could do ratings. I'll let you go off first.
Okay. Love the story. It's not Uzumaki. I'm going to go 7.5 out of 10 because I would have enjoyed more tension. There's not a knock on the story, but I like longer Junji Ito stories.
Yeah. With me, I'm not going to go with the 7.5. I'm going to go with the solid 7 because, you know, I was hoping for, you know, more storyline, but it's a short story. So he wanted to build that climax, but just, you know, going from Uzumaki to this book, it's like, wow, this is great, but he, just like Uzumaki spirals where literally people are having fear of holes, he literally took another person's phobia, like being claustrophobic and being afraid of the unknown, and he made a horror story out of it. Like here in America, we want to make horror stories about people cutting up other people, but he's like, I'm gonna take a phobia of you guys and I'm going to make it into something, you know, amazing. Like if you have a phobia of water, I'm gonna find out a way to make that horrifying. And he did with Uzumaki by having the whirlpools where literally it was sucking in bolts and killing people, where the water like had a life of its own.
Yep. The thing that you are most afraid of Glad you guys are sharing and talking about this. All our industry is going for better. Hey, Lynn, if I could draw at 30% capacity of the worst artist at Marvel, I would never shut up about how good I could draw. So, yes, no. If you don't like, this is the same, I used to say this all the time when me and Robert Oger were doing the hundreds. If you don't like the direction of a comic book, do it yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially with this genre, because this genre, and there's other genres out there, but mostly, I believe that horror can become just as popular as superhero comics because let's face it, besides growing up as a kid and even as adults, where people could say, what's your favorite superhero? Most people could also tell you and give an answer automatically. What's your favorite scary movie? And what's your favorite 80s movie horror slasher? Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy, people have people love to be afraid. People love to get scared. And that's why you have horror movies now that are making so much more money at the box office than some superhero movies are, where they're like, you literally have like some horror movies are like, hey, we like the idea that these are creating basically a franchise and empire of their own. So you have these other horror movies coming out where they literally have like 5 to 6 horror movies that all are based off of one concept of a demon, and it works up to the final end of it.
Yeah. How many exorcism movies exist, but they're not all sequels to The Exorcist?
Yeah.
How, like, I really try to resist getting off on tangents, especially about comics nowadays, but there's enough inroads that you should never stop liking comic books because the comic book that you want to exist doesn't exist or doesn't exist any longer. Because like you can tell golden age stories today easy, and you can pick up right where these other folks left off, and that's no big deal. But as the world changes, everybody should be included. Everybody should have a superhero that they can identify with, whether that's physically, mentally, everything, anything that you want to do, you should be able to do it. And if it doesn't exist, make it. And stop running. Never mind. I'm even gonna get into it.
Like if you want to make a horror story, especially with like a mini series, look at like a movie called Wrong Turn. Where it's basically about mountain men killing people and they're cannibals as well. You could easily have your like a 3 comic run where like in the beginning you have the origin of the killer. The second book is basically the killer now doing what he's doing or she's doing, and the third one have it where the killer actually finally dies. That's your 3 mini issue run that you could have a series, because it would be great to see horror comics have a series, just like you see superhero books having like, okay, we're going to have Brightest Day, Darkest Night, where you literally have, the Black Lanterns that represent death. And it's a whole series of the heroes trying to stop this.
It was like a zombie apocalypse in the DC universe. Like, I have the hardcover. One of my close friends got it for me years and years and years ago. But I love that book. Maybe not for the story in and of itself, but it's just like it's a different take on things. And it was like it was nice to see like DC once again like bring characters back that they killed off, which did get annoying, but it was a fresh enough take on it to where it was enjoyable. It was so cool to see, Earth 2 Superman as a zombie,
Yeah.
but also as a lantern ring bearer. Like that's wild. Like,
yeah.
But no, that whole book was solid. But no, you're right. Like everybody has their pocket for horror. Everybody does. Like I didn't grow up with traditional horror we didn't have a lot of horror movies in our house, but we had to go to the laundromat. And it's like Saturday afternoons, you might get some really good horror movies. Just like Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness, They Live, and The Hitcher.
Oh yeah, They Live. Yeah.
Yeah. Those three movies like cemented the fact that because we couldn't watch anything that was remotely demony anyway, but like Prince of Darkness, you could it was like Event Horizon. It was a sci-fi horror. It was based in an old church, but it was very sci-fi. They Live was such a cool movie, and it is like that's one of my storytelling parents is They Live as a movie. And The Hitcher is just one of those movies where you can't do anything about this real scary person. And he's worse than Freddy Krueger. Rutger Hauer in that first movie especially, man, was scary because in the 80s he looked like every truck driver you saw up and down 85. It was so scary. Like just from like cutting this guy off, he's going to terrorize you. You can't apologize. He's going to terrorize you. He pulled C. Thomas Howell's girlfriend in 2 pieces.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like that was like the worst was just the mental aspect of how he knew that he was going to kill C. Thomas Howell. And C. Thomas Howell knew that he was going to die from this guy, but he couldn't run because this guy was like king of the road. Like, it's just such a good movie.
Yep. And with that, before we end, you want to tell them what we're going to start reviewing next? The next one's actually is a series of 4 comics. And it's not going to be like, gory horror or like creepy horror, just like with Uzumaki and this one. But this one is going to be like almost like a PG horror in a way, as like the author who describes it. It's like Zombies meets Goonies, where you have literally these kids, almost like a Goonies game, going around trying to kill zombies and find out a way to bring their parents back to life who turn into zombies. And some of you who are comic book artists know who he is.
I'm so excited about this, man. It's like when I started like doing like my independent stuff, I started to watch a lot of Scott Serkland videos, and it was like, okay, it's like I felt like I had like a YouTube teacher. And then I found some other folks that like Marshall that were like doing like a lot of that finished work, like with what I was doing at home. So to be able to review like the Young and the Dead band, like I'm so psyched about it. And it's good, y'all. Like it's really good.
Oh, so yes.
This will be a fun.
That's the way Scott puts it. It's like the Night of the Living Dead meets the Goonies. That's a perfect example. Yes.
Yeah, it's like we went to the roller coaster park and we rode like the biggest, baddest, scariest rides. But then like there's always this ride that's not like a kiddie ride, but it's like the track is a different color, and you're like, I don't know if I'll ride it. But then you get on it, and it's like it's fun and it's fast, and it just like that you're gonna take that ride again. It's like Young and the Dead, man. I'm excited. I'm as excited about doing this one as I've been about anything because.
But it's definitely going to be one of those books. Just heads up that, I wouldn't say it is for your young kid to read. I would say it's more for like teenagers because there is like some inappropriate things that happen in there. But we'll save that for the episode.
Yeah, it's just before we finish on it, man. It's just like we've walked through so many different types of horror just in the short time that we've been doing these videos. It's like we started with the pulp, like the real, like traditional pulp, and that was good, and it had all these aspects that we raved about. And then from there we went into the book that Russ Leach did, and it was like this was like some of these stories like mobster horror, like Dick Tracy. This was Jack the Ripper, and this was still horror, and it was so different than what we did first. And then we went from that, we went to Junji Ito, and it's like this is like a completely different, like these are all different lanes in Blockbuster that have the same movies, but they're all worth, you got to go through every aisle. And now, like doing The Young and the Dead, like this is another departure from all the things that we've done before it, and I'm still excited, and I know that it's still going to establish itself in this new lane. I'm so excited, man. Like it's so cool that we get to do, like, of these cool books that we get to do. Now we've done 2 books that of the people that, like, we know, like we know of these people, like, and so it's just, this is how attainable it all is, guys. Like, these folks work hard, but these folks do it. And I'm these folks. Ronnie's these folks, because we both do hard too. And we do it good. Like, we both do it good, and we both do it different. So it's like, there's room for everybody. So be nice, say nice things, and find a lane and enjoy it. Like, just stop with the negativity. Like, stop with it. Because I'm gonna get negative about the negativity, and I'm close, man. Like, I can. The fuse is almost gone. I'm hanging on to it, but just stop being negative. Like, enjoy it. Put a smile on your face. Make a comic book. Read a comic book. Watch a movie. Like, do something that you enjoy.
Yep.
If you don't like what the news is saying, stop watching the news.
Exactly. Well, it's getting to be 57 minutes, so we'll end it here. But we want to thank you, everyone. Patrick, Lynn, my brother Rick, Frank. And
thank y'all for coming by.
Appreciate it. We thank you all coming by, and we thank all of you who've been coming along for most of the journey. We really appreciate that. It's just great to have, actual people in the chats actually commenting and looking forward to reading, watching our videos. So we appreciate it from the bottom of our heart. And, like I said before, when I started this, I wanted to reach out to Jason and Robert, because these guys are really cool. And I know that because I built friendships with them through the Discord, and I knew that they could appreciate the horror just like I have.
And you guys are kind of like my Sherpas anyway, because it's like, you guys know horror on a different level than I do, but because I have a child's excitement about it, because there's so much of it that's so new, I think that it works good. Because it's like, Ronnie has information on any horror that I would want to watch, read about, like, and so, like, some of it it's like, do it, and some of it I'm like, okay, well, I can hold that off for a little bit. So no, man, it's like, I appreciate you, I appreciate my friends, I appreciate the people who appreciate me, and like, this is always fun, Ronnie. Like, I always look forward to this. So yes, I'm a chatterbox, because I work and I wear a mask, and I have to look at a computer, or I have to do work things, and I can't talk about comic books at work. And it's like, so me and Ronnie, like, we pick a subject and we go. Like, we give ourselves a week to do homework on it. We always know what we're gonna do next. And so, no, man, like, this is fun, and this is therapeutic, and I appreciate everybody stopping by and watching, and I appreciate Ronnie, because Ronnie's a good host of this show, and I just kind of try to follow up and not talk too much like I'm doing right now,
Hey,
But
you're a good co-host. I mean, this is your show just as much as mine.
we have a blast, man. I appreciate it. So yeah, next week, guys, like Quick and the Dead. I mean, not Quick and the Dead, Young and the Dead.
Yeah.
Like, go pick it up, man. Like, you can find this online too, and it's like you're supporting like awesome, dope artist who puts a lot of time into teaching people how to do this. Like, there's a lot of just things that are my habits that I just picked up from watching Cirqueworks videos. So, and I've never talked to the guy directly, but no, so I'm very excited. Like, yeah, check out his book, y'all, and like read it along with us. Like, and if somebody reads it and is really into it and has something to say, shoot me and Ronnie a message. Maybe you can be our third co-host next week or our fourth if Robert's back. So just anything is possible.
I'll definitely. I mean, I'm one of Scott's Patreons, so I don't know if he has time, but it'd be cool to just get his like review, like get him on the show if I can. That'd
Hell
be awesome.
yeah! Would it be like having commentary, like live commentary on a DVD, right? Yeah,
I mean,
man.
that'd be great to get him in on the show at some point. I don't know, because he is a busy man. He does so much work.
Yeah,
but I'm
like the stuff you get from his YouTube channel for free is bananas, man.
Yeah,
like it really, really is. So
all right,
but well,
we're gonna end it there. We're gonna stop chatting so much, but again, I'm Ronnie Gunter on Crimson Owl Comics, Facebook, Instagram. You're here on my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe. My buddy, my friend Jason Alexander.
Yes.
Instagram, follow him. The links are in the description. We'll see everybody next week. Bye.
Peace.